First nights are always crazy. Kids.
This is so stupid.
Pulling up the agenda, yeah.
Well, no, I get them on the side.
Oh, yeah.
When it's all said and done, call. And I just go through now.
Yeah.
Just check it. I go to the
There you go.
It's diligent. It's the diligent thing to do, I think.
5-minute break to turn off the live stream.
Okay. Oh, you mean when we go closed? Yeah.
You want to go to the member agenda, go to that. Josh was saying he got an email that you have to create an account with what? This diligent. And I didn't get.
I did, but
didn't get an email.
I'm not able to log into my Gmail. That's my problem. So that's what's weird.
Can you go to a new tab and try to go back to your like community?
I wonder what the Chrome has.
It keeps asking me to put another account, and if I put Tide Ward, it tells me that already exists on this machine.
I just logged in on my computer, but it's telling me that my login is failing. Let's see. Yeah. It's Fairfield Future. You go to the Fairfield Future page.
Yep, if you want to get to the agenda. Yep.
It's just
so
weird.
If you go there.
It's all right, I don't need it.
School board.
Well,
I just
Yeah. I mean, I'm there.
tried to pull up the agenda.
I'm in.
I got that from Public or
Yeah, you go to the public.
from Diligent.
so just to pull up your email is not working. Just without.
Yeah.
Diligent.
And I usually like take notes on there and stuff. So that's the thing that's not working for me, but we can look at it some other time.
I'm gonna go down and see if I got an email from them because I didn't get any email. But everything is turned on.
So live now?
Yes.
Okay. And then will it hurt anything if I project something on here? Okay.
It's gotta be more than this, right?
That's it.
Really?
Broke. Broke.
I just took back too far.
John
Go to the sign in here in the corner.
That's why Chrissy hated our chair. She's always like throwing in my seat. She's like, take my chair. It's 6:30 when we get started.
All right.
I don't know if we,
All right. Call to order this meeting of the Fairfield School District School Board. The regular monthly meeting of the Board of Directors of Fairfield Community School District to be held at 6:30 on the third Monday of each month. The meeting is open to the public, and the public is encouraged to attend. Time is provided in the meeting for public input. The mission of Fairfield Community School Board of Directors is One Fairfield, where relationships foster growth, protect learners, unlock individual potential, and serve every student every day. Can I get a roll call?
Yep. Mark Porter.
here,
Ty Ward.
Here.
Christy Kessel.
Here.
Megan Dowd Robbins.
Here.
David Eastburn.
Here.
Mark Thornton. Here. Deborah Williamson.
Here.
All right. Approval of the agenda. Any perfections to the agenda?
Ready to approve the agenda as presented.
All right. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. Agenda is approved. Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
so moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. I'm pulling this up online, so now I gotta scroll down. All right. Straight into public participation. On On behalf of the fellow board members at this time, I would like to invite any member of the audience that has filled out the form to step up to the microphone with comments about items of interest or concern. Although we meet in public, we do not meet with public, and as such, the board cannot comment or answer questions. Please begin by stating your name. Every time you do that, it pops up from my agenda. Please begin by stating your name and relationship to the school. It would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 5 minutes. If 10 or more forms are submitted, we will reduce the time to 3 minutes per person. We ask that you remember that Iowa law prohibits us from discussing specific employees or their job performance. So everyone got a chance to turn in their form? All right. We will start then with Diane Gowdy.
I'm done before I even start. Good evening, board members, members of our school district, and community members in attendance. My name is Diane Gowdy. I'm a 40-year retired business teacher at Fairfield Community School District, and I see some of you that I had, and welcome back. I am a nationally board certified teacher in career and technical education, and I'm a former coordinator of a work program at FHS. So I would like, first of all, to thank the members of the school district who ran for school board. It's a time-consuming, difficult position, and I honor those who tried. I congratulate those who are sitting in these very chairs, and you have a tough job. Our district is in a place that I've never seen before, and I know that you're convinced that you can make a difference, and you can. And so thank you for carrying that out. I want to say that I taught here. I also had 3 children go through the district, graduated here, very successful individuals, and I have 2 grandchildren going through it now. They're successful at the age of 6 and 4, but they're in their formative years. So I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about the budget considerations. We're in a state that we've never been in before. And I've certainly sat through meetings where we've had to make budget cuts, but I'm specifically talking about 2 positions tonight. One position is the shipping, receiving, printing, maintenance position, which is a big deal. They are the ones who take care of our printing. That gives us the materials so that we can teach the kids. They are the ones who check in packages as necessary. I know I experienced several times that a person who held the position previously had to make phone calls and write emails about packages that were supposed to come, that they say did come, but they had the wrong product, but they didn't have the right quantity. And so it was a big deal for her to be on the ball and to take care of those items. Not having the right textbook for class or supplies is a problem. Overall, she also helps with some maintenance things and some shipping and receiving, all very important. The second position that I want to talk about is the work-based learning coordinator. With the career tech background, it's a big deal to me as well. I read some research about why people lose their jobs, and out of the top 10 reasons, 1 is about performance and lack of ability to do the job. 9 are about the soft skills, the things that, the lying, the cheating, the stealing, the lack of attendance, things like that. And so with the work-based learning program, that's a couple of the key issues that they really work on. Right now, the person who deals with it teaches the regular education as well as special needs students, and that's very important. He is also working on the idea of paid internships with dual credit, and community members like dual credit because it gets them started sometimes at a halfway point through their school. And that's certainly a big idea too. I know if we take the comprehensive local needs assessment next year, it's going to say one of our areas to look at is our work-based learning programs and increasing those. If you read anything about the Carl Perkins Vocational Grant, it's a big deal. I administered that grant for years, and we have to, as a school, meet the needs of our students. And so I think that that's very important. They talk about research supporting the idea of work-based learning and how it increases employability skills, communication, time management. The definition is sustained interactions with industry, community professionals in real workplace settings. And if you talk to the employers in town, they know the importance of what we're doing there. So I would like you to consider those two positions and the ramifications if those two positions are lost, especially for our kids and especially for our community, because it does have long-term effects. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Mindy Hoskins.
Hi, I'm Mindy Hoskins. I've taught third grade here in Fairfield for 30 years. Tonight you're going to receive a recommendation for cuts, and you have some big decisions ahead of you. So I'm here just to urge you to keep two questions at the forefront of your discussions as you move into closed session to talk about those cuts. Number one, how will keeping these things directly affect students and the people who work with those students? And number two, how will eliminating these things directly affect students and the people who work with those students? The people of this community elected you to this board to be their voice and to help lead our district in a positive direction. I thank you very much for your service to the students and staff and families of Fairfield Schools.
Thank you. Sorry, that podium bites sometimes. All right. Next, we'll move into superintendent updates. Superintendent Mishler.
I'm going to do my best to project up here. I would also just like to take the opportunity to comment that we're on the very basic of live streaming service tonight. Our tech director is in Minnesota preparing to be a grandpa, and so he's not able to join us tonight, and we've got some excellent help filling in, but we miss his expertise. So for anybody that's watching at home, you can access the agenda from the website. If you go to the school board section and click on that diligent link, you can follow along with the agenda that normally runs right alongside our videos as well. I'll try to go this way. So like all months, February has been a busy month. We have lots of celebrations. We've had kind of the culmination of our winter activities are rounding out. We've had lots of things to celebrate with All-State speech. Our Rocket League will be competing at a state event. Our Special Olympics basketball was celebrated in a recent Trojan Trek at the high school. And then boys and girls state wrestling have both had really great showings representing Fairfield themselves, their families, and our community very well. Right in the middle of FFA week, we have the big pancake breakfast on Friday, so definitely encourage all the board members and community members watching to participate in that. At the high school, it starts at 6 a.m. If you're hungry for some pancakes at 6, it also runs all the way till 8. We also celebrated National School Counseling Week and some concession stand progress that you see there up in the pictures. A few important things that I would want to bring attention to that are coming up. We've had some parent-teacher conferences for the second trimester, but we will have our elementary parent-teacher conferences coming up at the end of this trimester, which is scheduled for next Monday, the 26th. We also have a family engagement night planned at Pence on the 27th, and then a concert this week for Washington has a concert on Tuesday night. I also like to take this time every month to catch up on or report out on the goal areas that the board and I worked on earlier in the year. And so we continue to do a lot implementing our portrait of a Trojan. We have used that portrait to create updated job postings, as well as working through that to use some of those qualities that are the portrait outlines in our hiring, as well as advertising for jobs as well. As far as my time in the last month, you can see I put that update in every month, and it's been a busy month and been very fortunate to spend a lot of time in the community promoting the upcoming PEPL vote, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow. So had lots of opportunities to visit with community groups, and we'll continue to do that over the next couple of weeks in preparation as we build towards March 5th. And also had quite a bit of time in the buildings over January, with about 14.8% of my time there. A couple of challenges and solutions that we are working through. So we're right in the thick of implementing that time clock change, where all of our employees are now clocking in, clocking out digitally, and we're moving away from those paper timesheets. Anytime you institute any kind of change, there's obviously hiccups and bumps along the way, and so we're just continuing to verify, practice patience as new problems come up, working with the business department to solve those in an efficient, timely manner. And then also legislation, we're right in the thick of the legislative session. Had the opportunity to attend the legislative forum on Saturday, speak with 3 of our legislators, and I would just encourage everybody to continue to keep up with the fast pace of change there and continue to advocate for those things that are impacting us in schools. And so they've been very open, and I would commend our legislators also on engaging in those conversations and understanding the impact that those decisions have on us here locally in Fairfield. So it's been a great month since we met last in a regular meeting, and just want to keep everybody updated on what's been going on and what's upcoming as well. So.
I just had a question about your time in the buildings. Have you found that to be productive? Is that something that we want to keep moving forward? The 10 to 15%, that kind of metric?
I have found that to be is manageable. I would really like the goal I've set for myself in the next couple of months is to really focus on being in classrooms more. So I just keep track on my Google Calendar of when I'm in buildings for any range of topics or things that have come up. And I know that I have really missed out on being in classrooms more this year. We've had obviously a lot going on, working through a lot of different things, and I'm hopeful that here in the next couple of months that presence can be more student-centered.
Any other questions for Stephanie? All right, thank you.
You bet.
All right, next up is new business. First up, we got the budget guarantee resolution. Motion to approve the budget guarantee resolution. Resolved that the Board of Fairfield Community School District will levy property taxes for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 for the regular program budget adjustment. This item enables the district to receive additional spending authority and to levy additional taxes to assist the budget due to declining enrollment. Do I hear a motion?
Moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, Christine, Megan. Discussion. So for the new board members, what is this?
So budget guarantee is a resolution that all districts are encouraged to pass yearly. And what this will do is offsets our loss in new money. And so budget guarantee means that we will have 101% of FY24's budget to operate in for FY25. And so it does give us a little bit of a buffer, especially in the circumstances that we find ourselves with declining enrollment. We would not be alone in this. Several districts, hundreds of districts across the state will take advantage of budget guarantee. We had budget guarantee last year as well. So it's basically offsetting that our decline in enrollment takes our revenues down so much that new money is not able to offset that, so that we would have as much to spend in FY25 as we do in FY24. So all districts are encouraged to pass this, whether you utilize or need the budget guarantee later. What would be detrimental is to not pass it and need it and not be able to access that additional authority for the coming year. So kind of one of those standard, every year at this time, passing this resolution.
Any questions? Seeing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up, the March regular board meeting. Motion to approve changing the date of the regular meeting of the Fairfield Community School District Board of Directors from March 18th to March 25th. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Mark and Mark. Discussion.
So the need for moving the regular board meeting from our regularly scheduled third Monday of the month to the fourth Monday of the month is directly related to the budget review or the budget process. And so that first public hearing that we'll see and have a discussion about in the next item, we can't have that until after March 20th. And so it's just a timing issue with when our meeting is scheduled. And so rather than have a meeting to then have a meeting right away, bringing the recommendation to the board to move that regularly scheduled March meeting from the 18th to the 25th so that we can adjust that for requirements that are really outside of our control. So meeting that March 20th expectation of the first public hearing around the budget.
So if we didn't do this, we just have to have this extra meeting because we can't have it before that date.
Correct. So
Yeah.
the first public hearing on proposed property taxes has to happen after March 20th. And so, again, it's just kind of where the days fell on the calendar and making a slight adjustment.
Anybody have any conflicts with that date? All right. Any more discussion? Seeing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, for this next one, it looks like it has 3 motions in it, but I'm just gonna read it all as one.
It is just one motion.
Well,
for-
Okay.
it's 3 motions. Move to set each public hearing.
Oh, yeah.
So we could have the motion, have the discussion about the first public hearing, and then move to the second,
Okay.
and then the third.
Do them separate?
Yep.
Okay. We'll do them separate. All right, first up, motion to set a public hearing for March 25th, 2024 at 6:30 PM in the Fairfield Community School District Boardroom on the proposed 24-25 school calendar. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Mark and Deb. Discussion.
So approving the school calendar each year does require a public hearing. And so we are working through that calendar development process right now with the calendar committee. We met last week, we'll meet again tomorrow night to kind of finalize that. We will have some options as far as legislation that may be passing with some flexibility around the school start date. So it's a required public hearing in order for us to approve the calendar for the next year. And that's why we set it. So we're required to do that, and the next opportunity we would have to schedule that would be at the regular meeting in March.
Are you guys in the process of putting the calendar together right now, and then are you using groups in order to do that right now to help construct that?
Correct. So we've got a calendar committee that's comprised of our labor management group and then some additional perspectives. And like I said, they met last week and got, I would say, a pretty good portion of that. There's 1 or 2 things that we need to wrap up that we'll do tomorrow. We'll then have 2 calendars for all staff to consider and provide feedback on, and then we'll move forward at the next board meeting in March with those results and a recommended calendar for the 24-25 school year.
Because last year, if you kind of recall, that was a little bit of an issue, just making sure that plenty of groups had input on that, and I just want to make sure that we'll be kind of taking an extra step this year to kind of make sure people have an opportunity to have input with that before it comes to a vote, so.
Yep, last year we definitely heard feedback that staff prefer to have 2 calendars to vote on. And last year we did it a little different by trying to collect that feedback up front from all stakeholders and just build one calendar that took all of that feedback into consideration. When that was all said and done, the feedback was, no, we really like having 2 options to provide that feedback on, so we went back to the 2 options for the calendar this year.
Any other questions?
If staff or anybody else has questions about the calendar before then, is there a certain person they could talk to ask their questions, or
Yep,
they
they-
can meet you or the committee, or go straight?
Both. So each building has representatives on the committee, and so that would be that liaison with each building. If it's a staff member not connected directly to a building, it could come directly to me, or if people have questions, they can bring that too. There's been really nice consistent communication from that group. I know that before we came to the meeting last week, they had gathered some feedback from their own buildings as far as priorities in a calendar. And I know they're continuing to seek some feedback from last week to this week around those family engagement nights. And specifically, that's really one of the questions that we have left to answer tomorrow night as we wrap up that second calendar option.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next, motion to set a public hearing for March 25th, 2024 at 6:30 PM in the Fairfield Community School District Boardroom on the proposed property taxes. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Deb and Megan. Discussion.
So this is a new required public hearing this year in response to legislation that was passed last year. So in the past, we've had one public hearing to set the budget for the next fiscal year. And so this now requires two, and the first required public hearing is around the proposed property taxes. So again, that was the reason for changing the date from the 18th to the 25th so that we could hold this public hearing after the earliest possible date, which was March 20th.
So this would be our total levy. We're gonna have that calculated by then.
But yeah, so it's already calculated, so it'll be the total levy as it currently stands, but it could always go down before you approve the final budget. So it's the highest levy that we are willing to tax this year, so.
And if we approve the PEPAL in the beginning of March, that's not included here. What's the first year that's included?
It's included FY '26.
26, okay.
So it'd be next year's budget cycle, I'd be putting those numbers out.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And move to set a public hearing for April 15th, 2024 at 6:30 PM in the Fairfield Community School District's room on the proposed FY '25 budget. Do I hear a motion?
So moved?
Second?
Sorry, I tripped on that one. It says FCSD, then it says Community School District Board. So it was down there twice.
CSD squared.
Yep.
Yes.
I've got a little Ron Burgundy in me. I just read whatever's in front of me.
This is the one that for returning board members, this is the public hearing that would have happened in the past. The required public hearing to receive feedback on the proposed FY '25 budget. So the only difference this year is that we now have two. So the one that we just approved, and then this one is the standard, like we've done in years past.
Is that tied to our board meeting that month?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So the April 15th would be the third Monday of April.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Next up, motion to approve board policies at the first reading. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mark and Dave. And discussion. Did you guys all read the policies there on the first? I think most of these changes were coming down from IASB for language, right?
Yep, so that's really our standard operating procedure on the board policies at the first reading are changes that we're recommending based off of IASB recommendation. Or to increase efficiency, if there's redundancy in the policy itself or from one policy to the other, that's really what those first reading, typically very minor changes on that 5-year review cycle.
Any other questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next up is a motion to approve the board policies at the second reading. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mark and Christie. And discussion.
These would just be a follow-up to the first reading policies from January. So when we make changes, that's the routine procedure to review those twice.
Anybody see anything in there you want to question?
These are again basically just changes passed down by ISB then, or?
Correct, or again, efficiencies and to reduce any repeats or redundancy.
I'm trying to find one because I think it's one that we talked about the duties of the superintendent. Was it in this one or the one? Maybe I already missed it. I'm trying to find it real quick. Where it goes down who is in order.
What pages on this one?
Yeah, the policies are not light reading.
They're not.
I don't know that I see that one in this group.
Which one are you looking for? Something about
He was saying
duties of
superintendent
superintendent?
duties, which would be in the 200.
You can search on a keyword.
So I have a question for Evan, though. Is, in this policy, the capitalization, so I had a question on the,
That was in the previous batch, that was
Okay.
for first reading, so it'll come back in March.
okay.
So 302.4 is the board policy on superintendent duties, Mark, if that's what you're looking for. And it was approved on the 23rd of November.
No, it's not in this motion.
I don't see it in the,
Here, I'll come prepared next time.
All right, we don't think we're gonna see it in there. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up, motion to approve reducing expenses in the FY '25 budget by $1,098,905.64 to include 4 certified and 9.5 classified FTEs as presented. Do I hear a motion?
So
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, Deb and Mark Porter. And discussion.
So I have two questions just for the record. So this budget complies with our policy 701.5 fiscal management and financial metrics except for the solvency ratio.
That's correct. That's correct.
And what is our projected solvency ratio going to be?
Our projected solvency ratio, give me 30 seconds. .1%.
Okay. All right. And it also complies with our policy 606.1 on class sizes, correct?
correct.
All these packages are compliant with that policy.
Yep,
Okay.
correct. That
Very
was a criteria in those descriptions and justifications.
Yeah, thank you.
So for that UAB percentage, is that something that we should come and bring up in the next meeting to suspend that requirement?
We should
In
have some
March?
mechanism to,
Or should we wait till after the budget's approved?
So we will do that at the budget, public hearing or the budget approval.
Okay.
To waive that for going into the next year.
good.
Cool.
So April 15th.
Okay. Yeah, and this year when we did this, we went through a whole new process. I want to thank, our 35, 40 volunteers that were on the committees. Thank admin for countless hours of putting it together. I thought it was a good process. It was nice and transparent, and a lot of people got to learn a lot about our finances, so that's always good. And collecting that feedback, I think, was very important, and I like the fact that we got stakeholder, input this time on these. So I just want to thank everybody for part of the process. And thank you for the board, because I know you spent, dozens and dozens of hours on this, on top of that too, so.
Now, one thing I want to bring up, I think a lot of people are concerned, like, I feel like if a certain position gets cut, like, for instance, the work-based learning, that's one that I've continually been hearing about for the next several days. The program will not stop, correct? The program, we will continue to keep that program going. But what will be our plans for picking up that slack if we are removing that position? Will it be the principals that take care of it, or who will handle that stuff?
So I don't have the justification in front of me, so I should have brought the packages with me. I can go get that. But in writing those, it would be the responsibilities then of the principals. It could be other staff in the high school, mainly as a high school program. So I would reiterate that it would not mean losing work-based learning opportunities for our students. We prioritize that through the entire prioritization process to be able to continue to offer programming and opportunities to our students. It might just look different.
That's the biggest thing, is because that, along with a few other positions, we just want to make sure that people understand we're not going to be, not providing the services. Where it's just going to change the way that it's provided, and who's going to provide it, essentially. Correct.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, one of the things we did was we definitely tried to minimize, any student, ramifications. So the trying for sure to keep this away from, affecting students in their learning. So that was top of mind for sure. Any other questions?
I guess with the work-based learning, what comes to mind is it was kind of an all or nothing in terms of what we were presented with this package. And I'm just wondering, with this, along with a few other positions, how we can expect kind of the nuances to work, or this didn't allow for a 50% part-time person to continue doing this along with something else. So how does that get sort of sorted out if, that need is really great? Is there some way that we can evaluate this that's not 100% loss to that position?
I know that we've invested a lot of time and money into training for this position as well, so I hate to lose that and start over from square one. Is there a way that we can restructure to still utilize that and maybe facilitate in a different way?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's one thing to hear, okay, everything's going to be covered, but how do we know it's going to be covered to the same extent?
Yeah, I think that responsibility is going to fall on the buildings and everyone who's left to kind of figure out how it looks going forward. I don't think that's in, part of our budget reduction. I don't think we get to define, kind of what going forward the program looks like. But, I trust that they have put a lot of time into it. It's a great program, and that, we're going to have people taking care of that going forward.
To provide some context around work-based learning and how we got to today, this is the first year that we've had a full-time, like a 1.0 FTE dedicated to a work-based learning coordinator program position. We have offered numerous opportunities for students to engage in relevant work-based learning. We heard from a public participant today who spoke to it over several years. We had at one point, for example, many of our CTE teachers who also held the MOC, multi-occupation, I'm gonna forget what the C is, but the MOC endorsement is what you have to have through the BOE to be able to support some of the work-based learning opportunities. And so there was a time not that long ago when I was in a building leadership role that we had 3 or 4 people in the building that had that endorsement. We obviously have some expertise in our leadership at the high school with a lot of experience in previous districts in supporting and growing work-based learning opportunities. We've had a part-time person support the work study program. We've had work study be delivered to or supported with our students in special education with a dedicated staff member, separate from a part-time person who did that in the past. So to say exactly how that looks right now is any number of ways. We definitely got feedback on, you know, having a consistent point of contact, and so taking in that feedback that community has shared and working with that partnership and building those partnerships would be important feedback that we would continue to utilize as we continue to provide a robust work-based learning program.
So how did that part-time position look before?
It was a person that came in a few hours a week to support, you know, finding those job placements, checking in on students in those job placements, and following up with any situations or issues that might arise in those.
So I think what we were wondering is it possible to make that, instead of a full-time position, a part-time position, so that we still see savings, but we don't lose the benefits that we've already developed and invested time and resources into?
I think, you know, the way that we move forward, whatever directive is given tonight from the board, as far as the reduction, then as we've talked about the entire time, then the next phase of building back the best programming that we can, given we know we have this amount of staff, and we know we have this need. Part of that's really driven by registration as well. So when you think about high school registration, that starts to happen here at the end of February, beginning of March, where kids sign up for the classes that they want to take in the next year or the opportunities that they want to access. And so getting a better idea of how many students in which trimester, how all of that scheduling pans out, all of that plays into it as well. But if the question is, are we going to go back and rewrite packages, our budget packages at this point, that's not something that I would recommend. The packages were written by those administrators, taking all of these questions into consideration as well. And so I would lean on what Ty said, that you know, that is the work of our building leadership to move forward once we have the directive from the board on how to move forward.
Now that position does teach some college level courses as well, correct? Will those courses still be provided for the students? Do you know or not?
So again, course offerings are determined by interest.
Yep.
Okay. By students. So those change from year to year based on student interest, and so the answer is yes. But does that mean that for sure that there's interest for that, or how many sections of that, and how that fits into the master schedule? Again, that's that registration process that our counselors and principals work on every year. Right, coming up here in the springtime.
But you do anticipate someone will be licensed to do it in the building if we do cut that position, though, would be my question.
I mean, there again, the licensure to be able to do that could be a range of people that can pick up those different sections, and that changes in all content areas year to year based on registration and the number of students that sign up for any given course.
In terms of funding a position like this outside of the general fund, has this ever been done before through grants, or has it always been, like the part-time position, was it always funded through the general fund? Is there any opportunity with like IJAG grant money to also help support this, or do other districts do something different to support their work-based learning outside of the general fund?
I think you'd probably find a range of ways districts approach that. We did have a recent meeting with IJAG, and again, going back to that MOC endorsement, they are looking into ways that we might be able to endorse the IJAG instructor with an MOC. So work-based learning is a priority across the state, and so there's the potential for additional funds to support that. Right now, I don't know, like, there's a concrete plan in place for that, but I do know that it's a statewide priority, and you see more students accessing those opportunities we have in Fairfield than you have, you know, across the state as well.
Anything else? All right, Karen. Oh,
Else on that one or different ones?
anything that we're still on the same motion.
The only one I want to bring up is 311.1, which is the Middle School General Education Associates. I'm just gonna read it. So, the description that was in that package reads: These associates provide instructional support for students and teachers while in the classroom. They may work with a small group, one-on-one, or provide whole class support for our struggling learners. These associates also lead small groups during LIFT, which is intervention time, to provide students with targeted instruction. So when I go back to what we've been cutting and not touching students, I can't help but read that and say, how can we cut that when we're saying what's not going to touch students? Now there's a whole nother discussion of how these are categorized, and I don't know that it needs to go into that right now, but I guess just to the board, I'm presenting that out to you guys. So if you read through that and read through how these teachers are helping with struggling learners and providing students with targeted instruction, to me, what's more important than that, especially at the middle school level when we're trying to set them up for a high school career. So I know if I come with that, I should come with something to cut, but I'm not coming with anything to cut. So just wanting to ask that you guys look at that, think about that. I know it's last minute, but I would like to at least present that to the board to say, please think about it.
What would be your anticipation? How will the middle school fill those needs if we do cut that position and stuff?
So it's hard to not talk then about the conversation from a couple of weeks ago that to code associates out of special ed, they have to be tied to minutes in an IEP. If these students are have IEPs, are on a special individualized education plan, and there are minutes tied to them, then those positions would be coded out of special ed. So do we have students that struggle that are not identified in special education? We do. However, there's not a funding stream to, other than the general fund, to support additional support.
So really the only way we could provide that support right now is through those existing positions in which we're getting ready to cut. Is that, do I understand that correctly?
To support additional associate support for students not identified in
Yes.
special education. The only way to do that is with a general fund associate. And
But if we cut those associates, do you foresee us having issues giving those kids the needs that they need to have on a daily basis or not, I guess? I mean, will they have the staff there to support them?
I think it would depend on a range of factors. So are there still associates that are going to be supporting special education students in a co-taught or in a science classroom? Yes, those associates are scheduled into those classrooms to support students with IEPs that have para minutes or associate minutes written into those IEPs. So, you know, at some level, the answer is probably no, that if you do not have if you do not have an IEP, we don't have general ed associates and any of our other programming that are supporting students that do not have individualized education plans. Now, our paras that are coded out of special ed, when they're in classrooms, they're not just always giving all attention. I mean, they're helping all kids when appropriate, when the opportunity presents itself. So to say there's never any access to that, that's not. I mean, don't walk away with that with that thought either. So directly, would we have associates in an academic class with students that do not have minutes in an IEP? No. If these positions were to go away, we would not have that. Are there associates in classrooms that are helping students with IEPs and without? There are.
I just know at the middle school with what they've gone through the last, 2 years with things and the whole discussion of title and things like that. It's like, how are we filling this gap? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, be open to hearing from administration to see how they're closing that gap and how we're getting our results to trend upward.
Have other districts utilized parent volunteers to help fill the gap? Do we know?
I think that's a possibility. Parent, grandparent, community groups. You know, I don't know if it was this month or a different month where I had the picture where we have community members, volunteers that come in and do a range of support. And that could be, again, in the lift groups. That could be in lower grades. We see that with, you know, reading to classes or, you know, being there to support kids in a range of ways.
Okay, so we do have some alternative resources to consider.
Anything else?
I just want to discuss the instructional coach positions. As they're written, they're covering, you know, K through 1 and 2 through 5, and I'm just wondering if at any point that position would be expanded to also cover additional grades if we don't add an additional instructional coach or don't bring on a curriculum director. I guess at what point is that looked at by, you know, the admin team to make sure that, you know, there's enough communication or there's not gaps, those sorts of things. Because we were, again, just presented these packages as such without the ability to kind of shift things around. So when does that become a conversation to make sure that we can maybe increase the breadth or address additional needs?
The preparation for what programming looks like next year would begin as soon as we're given the directive, you know, from the board on what's staying and what's going.
So even though if we keep these packages as they've been written, it's possible that they may shift in terms of definition and scope to some degree.
I even if you go back to the conversations that we had in those prioritization meetings, I hope that I was able to communicate to that group that yes, things we should anticipate that things will continue to look different and that it is ever evolving. There's trade-offs to everything, every decision that you make, and every decision you make is a domino as well. So if the instructional coaches are picking up more of the curriculum director role, they're going to have less time for instructional coaching. There's still only so many minutes in the day and so many, you know, so much work to go around. And so, again, that really is the task of building leadership, to come together cohesively to say, if we know this is the number of staff that we're working with in any given program, how do we maximize that to build the best support for our teachers, support for our students, and the most, you know, comprehensive programming, robust programming possible. You know, if those jobs change a lot, then you are looking at a different job, and that has posting requirements and everything else. So, I mean, there again, every decision that you make, there are pros and cons as you go through that process. Trade-offs, give and take. I don't know how else to say that.
Now, for the students in the middle school, now if they have it written into their IEP that they need associate support, I mean, then can we provide that funding to them through a different revenue stream? I mean, because I mean that's the biggest concern right now is that individual students are not going to have that support. So I just want to make sure that if we approve this, they're not going to be left out to dry, right?
Correct. So a student with an IEP, anything that's written into an individualized education plan, that's a legally binding document, and we do our, you know, we staff that appropriately. But special ed is not immune from the overall staffing shortages that we face, and so at times that definitely is a challenge to find qualified licensed special education teachers as well as associates. So it's an ongoing challenge that we face, but an IEP is a legally binding document.
So do we think there's maybe some students that should have that written into their IEPs that currently don't? Or I mean, do you think that's currently an issue or not? I mean,
that's really what an IEP team is. That's the task that they are challenged with, and so that includes the special education teacher, general education teachers, parents, the student where appropriate at a certain age, district leadership or building leadership, and then that's where we collaborate very closely with the AEA as well. So they provide academic consultants, behavior consultants, all the way through school psychologists. It's not uncommon to have an IEP team that is this whole table and then some filled with people that are working together to support the needs of the student. And what those minutes look like, where those minutes are delivered, that is that team's decision. That's not a me decision. That's not, those are the people that are closest to the student, know the student the best.
I just want to make sure before we commit to removing that position that we're confident that the students that need that support will have it, So.
If it's determined by their IEP team, then it's on us to provide that. And that's then what's paid for out of special ed dollars.
Hopefully they can target those students that need that, and we'll be fine.
Yep, as a team, that would be their decision.
I guess I just have one more comment I feel like I need to make, because I really respect Mrs. Gowdy as a 40-year teacher. I think she probably knows more about this school district than any of us in this room, and the fact that she's raising these concerns is concerning to me. Especially, she's saying this could end up costing our district more money and, causing problems for teacher effectiveness and for our students. So I just think that's something also that we really need to take a second and think about.
Which one in particular?
This is
The shipping?
She was, talking about the
Yeah, I
shipping,
mean, if this is
receiving.
additional, how is it covered moving forward? It's just pieced together, or?
So, from the beginning, as we worked through that prioritization process and we talked about the impact, that was the work of really of looking at those one bad budget package versus the other budget package, and looking at the description, the justification to say, yes, other people, we all have roles and responsibilities that we could maybe do without. So there may be some jobs, some things that stop happening, and then there are other roles and responsibilities that we are going to have to reassign and look at changes on a number of fronts. So to be able to say exactly how that looks right now, we really need to know where all those kind of pieces fit together. Once we're given that directive, then it's right back to the table for the district leadership team to put those pieces together.
Yeah, and with that position too, that kind of falls into this building right here, this admin building, I think is taking kind of the brunt of a lot of these changes. We hear all the time that, communication, open enrollment, HR, special ed, all these things, marketing ourselves out there, all these things are important. And I feel like we're going kind of the wrong way on some of those, currently, with getting rid of so much admin support here in this building. I don't know how to change it so that's, because then we're affecting students directly with teachers. But I am kind of, I'm optimistic that, we have finalists for our superintendent search that we're probably going to be, announcing later this week. And I am hopeful that some brand new eyes can tell us how we can get a lot of those things that have been on our wish list, the marketing, the communication with everybody, all of those things to happen with, kind of a gutted admin office here. Because we're losing the HR position and the curriculum director and one district administrator or the district director.
And the shipping and receiving.
And the shipping and receiving, yeah. So a lot of holes to fill. But yeah, at the same time, I think all of us around here, there's some things in here we wish weren't in here. I don't, I think it's kind of a good sign of compromise that none of us are very happy with what's there. All of us have something we probably disagree with here. But in the end, I'm grateful that we all kind of came to a consensus.
We came to a consensus with 1.1, which is more than what we initially set out to, so I'm wondering if there's some, expectation that we might have to, in the next year with the new superintendent, look at adding a position back that we may have cut because things aren't functioning correctly, so I just wanted to maybe bring that up as
Now, Evan, with
some
that
sort
number,
of grace.
I mean, you do anticipate we'll have to cut a little bit more next year, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we have about $500,000 worth of opportunity costs to look at for the FY26 budget.
See, that's my concern, is we get back into this, going at this again and again and again and again. We've flattened the organization, for sure. We've taken a lot out of the administrative building. And we flattened it down to the buildings. And there's no other trade-off that we can have. If we don't make these trade-offs this time, we'll be back here next year. In FY 2026, we're looking at a real issue, and into 2027. And it's gonna be worse in those years because we've already been through this. We've already asked our organization to make these tough decisions, and their prioritization meetings. Unfortunately, the work-based coordinator and the general ed were both on both lists were below the line. Do we like it? No, absolutely not. But if we don't make these trade-offs, if we don't hit this number, this is the minimum number that we had. We had 1.1 million. We had $100,000 of margin of safety. We don't have that now. If anything goes wrong in this next year, we will be back here again and again and again. We can't put our organization through this. And we can't ask a new superintendent to lead in that environment. So unfortunately, these issues, we're not saying that they're not critical. And like Ty said, none of us like this. But they have to be done. The trade-offs have to be made, or we will be back here next year and it'll be worse.
But we're gonna be back here next year either way, though.
I know we will.
Okay, so I mean, I wanna make sure that's clear.
But, I mean, we can't, my point is, we can't put our organization through this level of what we've gone through. We may have cuts we have to make, and maybe there's cycles in our enrollment that we'll have to visit it every now and then. But this level of scrutiny and is impossible for an organization to go through. So I would just ask the school board to consider what the prioritization committees have done and consider the out years and those effects and make the trade-offs that we've agreed to here. We don't have a lot of margin of safety, and that we pass this budget, and then we work with the flattened organization. There's going to be differences in the buildings, for sure, because we still have to provide these services. So that's my point.
I agree. Well said.
So, just because there were changes from the last time we adjourned, should we call them out to make sure that everybody's read through what they need to read through, right? So we moved the school librarian up, right?
Yep, school librarian went up, and custodian and library associate went down.
And those were the only changes.
Those are the only changes in the last 2 weeks since Monday,
Changes
yeah.
that were made. And that was made because of a lot of insight into what that position does, not only as a librarian, but as other duties as assigned at the middle school as well. So what, I mean, I don't wanna keep going around in circles either, but at the same time, we've been given, what do we have, 4 hours last time and an hour and a half now to be able to cut as much as this is, so, I mean, it's not, I agree with Dave, it's not an easy task but what is, how do we think through this in order of like what happens? So like if we approve this tonight with these cuts here, and the new superintendent, whoever that may be, comes in and says, I can't run this thing without this role, what does that look like? Is there some approval that we give to be able to approve that? Or is that, well, you've already made your budget, so good luck, and you've got to just figure it out with the staff you have?
So the budget will say the amount of revenue we get in and the total number of expenditures we have. We cannot exceed that amount of expenditures. What that expenditure looks like can change by programming and board policy at discretion of the superintendent. But if we budget, call it 23.5 million where we currently sit, I can't go above 23.5 million, but I can make that 23.5 million work to develop the programming.
So basically, we hold the line, and we're like, if you want to move funds somewhere from here to here, we just got to figure out where's the offset. And that would be this new superintendent's call, and they would have to talk us into it.
So we have a plan that's earmarked, but the earmarks could move depending on our approval of borrow from one to make the other better. As long as we don't cover that 23 or whatever we're at now.
Yeah, you guys can discuss give and takes as often as you want. So if you want to put a $100,000 position in, I'm just gonna ask where's the $100,000 coming from.
And
That's
the
how-
board approves all hires.
And the board approves all hires.
Yeah, when we go through the budgeting in, what is it, April, when we will approve it?
So on March 4th work session, I'll probably be pulling up the actual department management budget in front of you guys, and I'll walk through it and show you how it all looks. You'll see like $14 million budgeted for instruction and so forth onwards, and see those breakdowns. And then April 15th, when you guys approve it, you'll lock us in at that revenue amount and that expense amount.
So that does not list positions, is what I'm trying to get to, Mark. So, yeah, that's not gonna list positions, so yeah. What fits in there? This is our best guess.
So do we have a motion?
Yep, we're still discussing. Is there anybody want to keep discussing?
This has to be by roll call.
All right, then we'll go to a roll call vote.
Porter.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Kessel.
Aye.
Dowd Robbins.
Aye.
Eastburn.
Yes.
Thornton.
Aye.
Williamson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you, guys. Next, we will move into a closed session. We'll do the motion for the closed session first, and then probably take a 5-10 minute break while we get everything set up for it. Motion to enter into a closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.5J to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure would be reasonably expected to increase the price the government body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price the government body would receive for that property. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Deborah and Megan, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. All opposed? All right. We're moving to closed session. Thank you, everybody.
Take a 5-minute.
And we'll take a 5-minute break.
So we will probably just turn off the live stream.
Okay.
And then we can come back on at the end for the adjournment, if that's
Sounds good to me.
rather than
7:36.
Talking about So I just wanna sit here.
Got it.
We can get into that debate all day long.
Tough decision tonight.
Yeah.
Gotta get your closed session recording ball. The magic ball of closed sessions.
This is the coolest thing I've purchased.